Hello, I'm David McAdam. I'm the CEO of the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers. I'm here today to have you join us in our new GVS Gregory Folk School for Retail Professionals. We've created this 15-minute module series that I think will help you to understand your business. What we're trying to do is to help you to learn more in a shorter period of time from a wide variety of industry experts. We have recorded information from everyone from Moscow through to Los Angeles, through to London and here, and Norway and other places, where people have learned how to do what we do every day, but to do it better and more efficiently. So come and learn what there is to learn and update your knowledge. We are here to help you to raise your personal profile in the industry. We're also here to help you to facilitate your business in the retail industry. So please come and join us. Thank you very much.
So today we're talking about brand building in the digital age, and this is about establishing a connection through storytelling, and we'll talk a little bit about the brands that are doing it well. So firstly, let's talk about the environments that brands are in, especially in the last year. We're seeing that the world of brands is changing dramatically. So we have the rise of what's called the direct-to-consumer brands. And this is talked about a lot in the industry as DTC, direct-to-consumer brands. And this is where we're seeing barriers to entry collapse and supply chains becoming more affordable, more rentable, and more ownable. And this means that the path to consumer is becoming more direct. So therefore, we look at DTC almost forcing brands to become more connected to their customers. 76% of customers will say that they will purchase more from a brand that they feel more connected to than a competitor. So if we go back to our principles of marketing, and Dr. Philip Kotler, who is known as the father of modern marketing and did the 4 Ps, really talks about the power shifts to the connected customer. And we hear a lot about this in the industry, but this is where brand building plays a really important role.
The focus should be on instructions to help navigate the trip to your mall. Planning your customer's next visit. This part is absolute key. The mall management team need to collectively undertake a customer mapping experience and double check that the logistics are matching up with the clear instructions to your customers. One way to do this is to create an experience map, a step-by-step analysis of what your customer should see and experience as they approach and exit your mall. The map can include marketing communications, branding messages, operations and safety information, process and protocol, and later on, when restrictions allow, promotions. It's a tool to anticipate every brand touch and provide the appropriate message at every step along the way.
My session, which is about creating successful businesses, having relationships, trust, and leasing beyond COVID-19. I'll go through each one of these separate steps and discuss them and bring stories in, because I want to make sure you understand where I'm headed with all of this and how it can make a difference for you in your business in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. You have to hold that vision in your mind going forward, and everyone on the team has to hold that vision going forward as well. When you have that vision and it's written up, you have to put it together in a business plan. And the business plan is something that we'll get into in a later module that I'll be happy to go through and help you create a business plan. But your whole idea of creating a successful business has to be well written, well documented, and the team has to agree on everything that you're going to be doing all the way through.
This session will deal with the fundamentals of leasing, and we're talking mainly about the rents. So the first thing we really need to understand is that every deal is different. No two properties are ever the same. If you consider, you look at the Dubai Mall versus Mall of the Emirates versus Murdiff versus the Deir City Center, none of those properties are ever the same. Now, they may have the same retail tenants in there, but they are not. Those deals are all going to be different for those retailers. And what we're talking about today is about rents, and rents are really how an investor makes a property work. Each shopping center is a property, and each of those properties are investments for somebody, and they have to have a certain return. Minimum base rent is how that is really established, and we'll go through that a bit later in a bit more detail. But we have three categories of rents that we're talking about today: minimum base rent or contracted rents, percentage rent, also called overage rent, and then service charge. And service charge is also called CAM in certain regions.
What are the main sources of revenue in a mall? The main sources of revenue are, of course, shop rents, the shops, the F&B units, the anchor units, specialty leasing, those events that we do in the common corridors, the kiosks and carts that line our corridors, advertisement revenue, revenue from car parking, percentage rent from the successful shops. Good leasing creates long-term value for the project. It sets the right identity for your center. It makes the project sustainable in the long run. In times of adversity, in times of booms, the project is still sustainable. It can live on its own. It creates a brand loyalty within the target audience, which is your customer base that you're targeting. It helps pay bills on time, maximizes the income for your center. It complements the demographics and the psychographics. It increases customer traffic within the mall. And over and above, it promotes cross-shopping.
And we'll guide you through this e-learning session where we'll be talking about the basics of leasing. Basically, I will be directing you through three main topics involved in leasing, which is basically the importance of leasing and the practicality of leasing and how we do leasing on a day-to-day basis, which you can take with you. As well, we'll be talking about the financial aspect of leasing and how leasing is an important component as a revenue generator. And we'll end up the session with practical examples of forward-thinking leasing and crisis management leasing to deviate from downturns and transfer them into opportunities and advantages for your projects. So to start with the first topic, which is the understanding of leasing and the fundamentals and basics of leasing, it's very important to know that leasing is the cash, the revenue generation aspect of any project. So if you don't have income coming in, your project is going to be a dying project. And when we talk about income, when we talk about revenue, when we talk about cash, we're talking about the value of the asset. This is from a quantitative point of view. And from a qualitative point of view, we are talking about customer satisfaction, we're talking about the profitability of the project, we're talking about the image and the reputation of the project, which would make it a success story. Okay.
Many people find this difficult due to the many unknowns that we are facing in a situation, especially like what we're having now with COVID-19. We have never done it before, there is no right or wrong, and maybe there is a lack of information that we feel that we need to take decisions. So here are our steps when it comes to planning and decision making in uncertain and complex situations. Now, in a situation as we have now with the COVID-19, it may be easy to jump in to look into health and safety risks only. But bear in mind that there are other potential risks to your operation. That might be financial risks, technical risks, or reputational risk. So bring in your team and brainstorm a little bit about this to try to map out all the different risks that we have. Once we have identified the risk, it's time to evaluate it and decide whether it's acceptable to you or not. We can do this by using a risk matrix. Now, the risk matrix is divided into two different axes. The probability axis, meaning how likely is it something to occur, and the impact axis, meaning what will be the result of something actually happening.
Talking about the fundamentals of shopping center management. So generally, I have 5 components of shopping center management that I feel are the keys, and people can discuss this or that on other ones, but I think the operations, the marketing, the ancillary income, which is essentially your specialty leasing, pop-ups, that sort of thing, the leasing or releasing portion, and then reporting. These are the key pieces, and we're going to talk about them in general as we go forward. I like to start with operations because honestly I believe that taking care of the physical plant is the best place to start, and make sure that it's working to its best and highest use. We need to make sure that our systems are working in a way that is efficient and to its best capacity. So there are a couple of different ways that we look at for managing the physical plant.
There's a lot of unknowns about what is going to happen to food and beverage operations going forward. In many countries around the world, operations have started already. There are many controls. But the most important thing to remember is that we are planning food and beverage for people. We must not take out the hospitality component that we planned for our malls, for our restaurant strips, for our dining precincts. So regardless of what we are going through with COVID-19, we still must remember that we're planning for people. We take a multi-disciplined approach because food is a fashion. Food changes, dining habits changes, we look at healthy eating, we look at all the different aspects. And in order to put that into perspective, I've simply put together this slide that looks at the 5 stages of master planning. And master planning will help you understand what we need to plan for our projects in the future.
I'm here today sharing some of my learnings that would hopefully benefit you as we progress a new way of working and explore new opportunities in our business areas. I'm going to cover 3 areas that I think you will benefit from as we look into aspects that are becoming even more critical post-COVID in our F&B mix in the shopping centers. So I will cover the 3 areas, which are understanding your local market and the size and the profile of the customers, how you can assess it, and what that can help you in determining your F&B mix. The second is positioning of your project, very important to understand and establish from the beginning. And that positioning relates to all components that are in the project, whether it is retail, FEC, food and beverage, or anchors. And the third is how to create a diverse cuisine and a diverse operator base for your properties. Whether you are a single property operator or multiple, all these aspects have to be taken into account for a healthy retail mix that is magnetic and brings the customers over and over again. So let me cover the first slide, which is understanding your local market. It's very important to know where we operate. What are the trends? What is in fashion? You know, food is fashion. What is offer that is coming up in some of the properties in your landscape? What experiences do they offer? And what are the standards of operations of F&B operators already in the market? This helps you understanding when your positioning of a project is of a certain level, you want to attract the talent that fits your operating standards, your positioning, your size of the mall, etc.
We're here today to talk about the foundations of strong brands. And there are three things in particular that we're going to look at. The first is the history of brands, the main pillars of successful brands, and how to build your brand for today's world and tomorrow's world. So when we look around us today, we see brands everywhere. Shopping malls we go to and visit, supermarkets we shop at, the food we buy, the clothes we wear, the phones we use, and even the water we drink. However, it wasn't always like that. So where did this idea of brand start? Where did it all begin? Well, the word itself, brand, comes from the Old Norse word brander, meaning to burn. And this refers to the practice of branding cattle way back in ancient times, 4,500 BC.
This course is a small piece of a much larger certification course that we do, but it'll give you a basic understanding of the elements of building a good customer experience, and we'll talk a little bit about why these customer experiences are important in building long-term customer relationships. So what I wanted to do first is clear up a couple things. Experiential marketing is using tactics to emotionally engage people in advertising activities. And the main goal of that is to improve the effectiveness of ad campaigns. So again, we're using tactics to engage people emotionally in advertising activities. When I talk about that, I always talk about the progression of economic value. And this is from Joe Klein and Jim Gilmore's book called The Experience Economy, in its third edition now with a new release in 2020. And what they talk about, even 20 years ago when they wrote the book, is this progression of economic value from commodities to goods to services to experiences.